an extremely unique topic. Primarily, this is going to be coming from my own perspective, my own personal perspective. But I must say that I do have a track record of sharing these personal perspective videos. And then shortly after, or already, somewhere existing in the multiverse, there is already information that can sort of confirm some of these personal perspectives that I have. And there are certain types of videos that are on YouTube that fall along similar lines to the topic of this video. And I will point you in the right direction to study this a little bit more if that's something you're interested in. But once again, most importantly, I'm going to be sharing my own personal perspective as an occult practitioner myself, a professional occult practitioner myself at that, to really go into depth about why I have this perspective and what I'm able to recognize in the first place, okay, from personal experience first and foremost. So what exactly are we talking about? I'm going to be talking about how Jesus, the archetypal energy or the entity, we could even say, Jesus Christ, right? I'm going to be talking about how Jesus is an artificial creation of a more so ancient and a more so primal rooted entity, spirit, archetype, which would then be Lucifer. So what I'm saying is that I personally believe that Jesus is an artificially created entity that is meant to mislead the awareness of the average individual existing in the multiverse today away from recognizing the true primal source of what Jesus actually represents, which would actually be Lucifer. Okay, so I believe that Jesus was artificially created to distract your awareness and to distract the mass collective's awareness from the more so primal archetype, the more so primal energy of Lucifer. Okay, so within this video, obviously, I'm going to be explaining why I have this idea, why I see this to be true, and that's exactly what I'm going to be breaking down. So if this is something that intrigues you, and maybe there's some sort of a resonance that you're picking up on as well, then definitely what you have to do next is one simple thing, which is stay tuned. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so first thing first, I always like to start my videos with drawing a little bit of a context, okay? So let me start with sharing one of the reasons why I was intrigued to make this video in the first place that really played a pretty important role as to me even making this video. I came across a YouTube video that literally appeared on my, just on my live feed. It was just a video that popped up, and it was by a YouTube creator called Morgue Official, and I'll post a picture of his YouTube video and the one that really intrigued my idea into this subject. And once again, I'll have a picture so you can watch the video yourself. I definitely recommend you watch it yourself as well. And yeah, a while ago, I had one of my own YouTube followers tell me to follow this person on YouTube and look at their videos, and I did. I followed it. I always take that as a sign, that I should listen to what I'm being told, at least be receptive to it and see what kind of value I can get from it. So I listened to the subscriber that mentioned the YouTube channel and told me to check out a certain type of video. I did my own research. I checked it out, and I was surprised. There's a lot of good content and powerful information that is on this person's YouTube channel, Morgue Official. So I would recommend any of you listening to this to go ahead and check it out if that's something that you are interested in regards to taking your occult studies to a deeper level. Now, obviously, there's things that I don't agree with in regards to this person's YouTube channel, but that's completely normal. That's how evolution functions. And there are a lot of things I do agree with, a lot of things that I think are extremely valuable. So, that's what I want to make very clear. Okay? So now that I shared that, and now that I shared some of the reason as to why I felt like making this video, is because I saw one of Morgue Official's YouTube videos that was titled something along the lines of Lucifer is Jesus. And being a professional occultist myself, having once at one point in my life, a very long point in my life, been an actual Christian who used to go to church, who used to pray to Jesus and actually have a strong association with Jesus, a strong energetic resonance with Jesus, I have a strong perception and a strong awareness of what Jesus actually represents from personal experience, as well as being a professional occultist who has an extremely profound connection with Lucifer. So I also know what Lucifer represents and the difference between these two archetypal energies, or the difference between these two entities, between Jesus and Lucifer. And from my own personal experience, I see things a little bit differently than what were portrayed on the Morgue Official YouTube video. But I think within that video he made a very important and powerful point, and that's really what I'm going to be expounding on within this YouTube video. Once again, as someone who is a professional occultist, who has personal experience with the archetype or with the entity, Jesus and Lucifer separately. Okay, so before we get started, what I want to do is I want to light one of my EMF incense sticks that I have already set up right here. So whenever I light these incense sticks, I always set a powerful intention, and that intention is literally to increase my power in any way possible, however that becomes manifest. And this is an electromagnetic frequency incense stick that is created by me, one of the most unique incense you could ever get your hands on. I promise you, you won't find them anywhere else. And if you would like to get your order of 50 of these incense sticks, then you can place your order at the fourth link in the YouTube description. Beauty. Okay, so that's wonderful. Okay, so now that we have the intent in motion, let's get into this video. Okay, so as I was saying, in regards to why I believe that Jesus and Lucifer are not the same, I don't personally believe they are the same entity, and I don't personally believe they are the same archetype, okay? And it's not that I just don't believe it. I know that to be true. I know they're different. They are not representing the same person. What I do think, and to my knowledge from experience and from study as well, is that there has been many times in history where you have a, let's say, a primal force, a primal entity, a primal archetype, okay? And throughout time, this primal energy then gets diluted, so to speak, or it gets changed and it gets transformed for many different reasons. I mean, the change of societies, the change of cultures, the change of rulership, okay, between kingdoms and things in that nature, comes with a change of entities, a change of gods, a change of religion. So this is one of the reasons as to why I personally believe that Lucifer and Jesus, although they have a lot of energetic significance and connection and correspondences, for example, you have Lucifer, which is the light bearer, okay? You have Lucifer that represents essentially being the light bearer associated with the sun, okay? It's mentioned in the Bible that Lucifer is the rising star, and there's the same mention of Jesus being associated with the rising star. And we already know that Jesus represents the light, and the sun, having it be in the tradition that Jesus is the Son of God. Okay, so there obviously is some connections between Jesus and some connections between Lucifer that, if you're being completely honest with yourself, you can't deny, okay? And even, like, honestly speaking, even within the Judaic Bible and the Judaic religious perspective, you don't really hear the name of Lucifer mentioned too much, which also sort of makes you feel like Lucifer may have some sort of association with the main character of the Bible itself, which we can all say is Jesus. Okay, there's literally like one small mention really of Lucifer, and it's more so towards the beginning of the Bible. And I know there's a lot of people that do have the perspective that Lucifer actually is Jesus, but what I'm here to say is that I personally know for a fact these two energies, once again, Lucifer and Jesus, are very different. They are different energies. They are different entities, and they carry different archetypal energies, okay? Although they have a lot of correspondence, they have a lot of similarities, and these correspondences and similarities, to my perspective, are very strategic as to why Jesus is so similar to Lucifer. Okay, now, when we're looking at it from its more so authentic perspective, once again, we want to get to the root of these energies. Whenever you're dealing with anything that is spiritual, anything that has to do with an entity, an archetype, a spirit, you name it, you're always going to get the most value the deeper you can get to the root of where that energy was produced. Okay, so for example, you have one entity that goes by one name, and that specific entity was revered and worshipped for a certain type of significance in one culture, but at some point in evolutionary time, that culture was conquered or that culture diminished, and then a new culture took its place, and then they renamed that same entity and gave it a different association, oftentimes completely opposite of what it was originally worshipped as, which then changes the archetypal significance and the archetypal primal energy of what this entity was built off of and built with in the first place. Okay? What I'm saying is very nuanced, and you have to really pay attention to absorb it and understand it, but this is very important to recognize. We have this example that I'm giving with an entity that was originally created with an archetype, but then throughout time, the archetype was changed because there was a new religion established, or there was new leadership in place. There was a new culture, there was a new kingdom, a new society that had a different God, that had different energies or different entities. So therefore, they changed the primal nature from the previous God or the previous entity. So when we're talking about entities and when we're talking about spirits and archetypes, they are always going to have a significant resonance to how they were created on its primal level. So what this means is that whoever originally created those energies, whatever culture originally revered or worshipped and empowered that type of energy with the intent that that original culture had, that is going to be the primal significance that goes behind that entity, or goes behind that spirit, or goes behind that God. And that primal significance is going to be way more powerful than the artificial attributations or the artificial qualities that a different culture would end up giving this same entity or this same spirit or same God. Okay, I want you to understand that the primal resonance is always going to be more significant, and it's going to be more powerful than the artificial significance. Okay? So this is very important to understand because it makes sense. You know, the originators of who established that energy in the first place and who created that energy in the first place in correspondence with the intentions of those people who really empowered that archetype or empowered that entity or spirit, that is where that entity and that spirit is going to hold most of its power and most of its correspondence, okay, with the original intent of the people who worshipped it, okay? So what I'm saying is that Lucifer and Jesus are not the same entity. They are not, okay? They are completely separate. And I personally believe that Jesus was created artificially to essentially replace Lucifer in the many different faces and aspects that Lucifer has taken throughout the ages. I personally believe that Jesus is an artificial religious version or Christian version of what Lucifer represents in its more so primal nature. Okay, so Lucifer is associated with the knowledge and the awareness of the deep unconscious and subconscious, literally of the underworld. Therefore, he's the fallen angel. Very powerful, one of the most important energies that you actually need to be aware of if you're planning on really developing yourself in the occult field as an initiate yourself. Okay, I'm telling you this right off the bat. Okay, now Jesus doesn't have any associations with the underworld, does not have really any connections with the deep unconscious and subconscious mind, but is directly connected to light, directly connected to being the Son of God and following moralistic perspectives, listening to what God is telling him, and being a representation of someone who is willing to die for another person's sins, being able to forgive, being able to let go, and literally being willing, ready, and able to sacrifice himself because he's aware of the higher truths that essentially are coming from God. Okay? This is a very different energetic association than Lucifer, between Lucifer, as I'm mentioning, and what Jesus is representing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so unfortunately, the chip ran out on my video, so I had to change out the chip. We ran out of space. So I'm picking up from where I left off. It's just a different day today. So I'm going to try to remember exactly where I left off and just literally pick up from where I was. We're still on this subject of understanding the difference between Lucifer and Jesus and how my personal perspective is geared around the fact that I believe Jesus was artificially created to be a masquerade towards the more so primal energy, which would be represented as Lucifer. Okay, so let's go into a little bit of this. So when it comes to spiritual self-development, when it comes to psychic self-development, and literally when it comes to the occult field in general, Lucifer is literally one of the most important archetypal energies, one of the most important entities that you as the individual, you as the practitioner, can start to invoke and start to integrate within yourself. Okay? This understanding and this knowledge that I'm sharing right now is known very well by some of the most professional and some of the most successful occultists that exist on our planet today. And even this understanding is known by certain types of just successful people in general, sometimes even unconsciously and subconsciously. But the point that I'm trying to make is that Lucifer is very prominent in our real world today, and it is a very ancient type of energy, as I've discussed throughout this video many times over. And primarily what Lucifer is representing is the awareness of the soul, the awareness of the darkness itself. So this would be in regards to literally the crazy multiverse we live in today. The archetypal energy of Lucifer would be the energy that teaches you how to maneuver through this crazy multiverse and then become essentially a ruler in your own rights within the multiverse, okay? Therefore, leading to someone's success within the multiverse, leading to someone's literal, physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological success in general, okay? So, the question comes out to primarily be, well, why would there be a creation of an artificial entity that was broken off of a more so primal entity, which is Lucifer? Okay? Well, think about it like this. If there are people that are trying to control the world, and trying to pull the strings and stay in power in a way where you do not have the knowledge and you do not have the awareness of potential pathways to get to your deepest and your highest potential, then these people would obviously want to disguise a very primal and a very powerful force, a very primal entity, as something that it's not. Something close to what it is, something close enough in its archetype or close enough in its symbolism that it can be similar, but yet, although it has its similarities, it's still very, very, very different to its more so primal base. Okay, so if there were, and this is the case, people that were controlling the world, and it's strange, it's strange that, it is this way, but just because I'm saying it in the way that, I am, where I'm saying, there are people that have control over society and control over certain governmental laws and politics and things of that nature. Just because I'm saying these things, and yes, there is a lot of truth behind these things, does not give you a pass to be a victim. For example, I'm a professional occultist. I've, through my own journeying of self-development and psychic development, I've figured out this knowledge on my own, and my intent was not ever geared around or based around trying to prevent other people from having this awareness and this knowledge. And this is obvious because look at my YouTube channel. This is what I teach, and this is literally what my business is built off of. It's the reverse. So what I'm saying is that just because there are certain types of families and people that have this knowledge, for example, of Lucifer, and they create a society and they create religious structures to try to prevent people from recognizing entities like Lucifer, very primal entities, does not mean that Lucifer is evil. Does not mean that these primal energies are evil just because these secret societies and these families are keeping them hidden from you. It's quite the opposite. And look, if you're truly developing yourself in the way that you should be, getting to the deeper roots of your unconscious and subconscious mind, getting closer to your soul, you're going to recognize how important these primal entities like Lucifer actually are along that path towards your self-development. Okay, similar to all the different entities that are associated with the clip-off, okay? That's not what this video is about, but I'm just making a connection there so you can have some awareness. For some of you who are a little more studied than the average person who's watching this video, you are going to know a little bit about what I'm talking about. But the point that I'm trying to make is anyone can be aware of an entity like Lucifer, okay? Really, anyone can be aware of the path that you need to take to literally be a controller and a ruler of the multiverse itself. Anyone can do this, okay? Once again, there is families, there is certain groups of people that have been aware of this for a very long time because the information and the knowledge has been passed through their bloodline. So because of their awareness of this knowledge and this information, they've actually structured the multiverse we live in today. They structured the world we live in today to further try to prevent people from becoming aware of these types of truths, like the importance of an entity or the importance of even understanding how to use these entities or how to use these occult energies and archetypes and things in that nature. Okay, so this is the point to understand. You do not want to be the victim, okay? Because you're not the victim, okay? We live in the multiverse that is built like this, And it is built like this for a reason. You just want to know how to maneuver through it and get the most out of it. But once again, connecting it back to the point that I was making is, with the knowledge that there are families and there are certain secret societies and groups of people that are controlling the world we live in today, basically rooted in the economy, rooted, coming from the root of money. Okay, they say the root of all evil is money, and there's a lot of truth to that. Pinning off of what I was saying about these families and these secret societies and things in that nature, well, it would make a lot of sense that there would be a creation of something artificial that would be the main entity or the main archetype that these groups of people, these families and these secret societies would want you to believe in, because it's not the truth. It's not what is in touch with your primal nature. Therefore, if you can believe in this artificial entity that these families and these groups of people, these secret societies have created, then you're going to believe in something that is actually not in touch with your soul's deepest level of self-development. It's artificial. Okay, there are some properties to it that are, that are real and that do make sense. But once again, when we look at the archetype of Jesus, we're looking at a human being who didn't fully embrace the darker side of himself. He was told by God that he could not embrace the darker evolutionary sciences. And he was also somebody who did not fully acknowledge his enemies. He did not utilize the more so destructive aspects of his own being. He was very creative. He used the creative aspects of his being. He was loving. He was very healing. But just like every positive needs a negative to create power, as the human species, as energetic beings that we are, we need the same properties as well. Which means we need to, if you want the most value, you don't need to agree with me. You don't need to believe with me. Believe what I'm telling you. But if you want to get the most value out of your life and out of the world around you, you have to utilize your creative properties literally just as much as your destructive properties. Okay, this is what's a big trick in the real world today, where you're supposed to love everything, you're supposed to heal everything, you're supposed to, be nice to the people that are trying to prevent you from getting to your highest potential. Now, I'm not telling you to blatantly be disrespectful. That's not what I'm saying. You want to respect everyone and everything equally. And then if something happens that shows you otherwise, then you be aware of what that thing is, and you be aware that it crossed a boundary with you, and through your intent, you can destroy things. You don't need to do it physically. You don't need to do it verbally. That's what your ego wants. Through your awareness and your intent, if someone blatantly disrespects you and you were being respectful to them, then it's okay to want to see them fall. It's okay to want to break them down. Okay, that's called evolutionarily putting somebody in check. And there's actually a property to that matters. Okay, so in regards to what I was saying about Jesus and the archetype of Jesus, he didn't do that. Okay, so he was missing something. And then at the very end, he was sacrificed. Okay, he was chosen to be the sacrifice for the sins of me, for the sins of you, for the sins of humanity. And I get it. Moralistically, that sounds great. I understand that. Trust me. I get it. Moralistically, that sounds amazing. It sounds like this was a great guy who really cares about you. I get it. And that's part of the illusion behind the archetype of Jesus, which makes you further want to lock into Jesus and makes you want to learn more about him, because you see, oh, this man loves me so much that he died for me. He was such a good guy. He was so caring. I resonate with that. And if you think that this archetype of Jesus, or this being, this entity of Jesus, wasn't created to do exactly that, to pull on your emotional strings, then you're fooled. Okay, you haven't woke up to what kind of multiverse we actually live in, okay? And once again, the reality is I understand. Look, I understand Jesus is someone you can identify with very easily because he was such a moralistically proper person and a caring and a loving person who gave selflessly, okay? But unless you're really, you listening to this, unless you're really down, listen to me, truly, unless you're really down to do the exact same thing, to die on the cross. Are you listening to this? If you're willing to die on the cross for my sins, if you're willing to die on the cross for my sins and be tortured on that cross, have your hands nailed down for my sins, if you're actually willing to do that and you care so much about me that you're willing to do that, then that's the path. Okay? That is the archetype of Jesus. And if you know that's what's behind it, if you know that that is what your outcome's going to be, similar to Jesus, energetically and physically getting sacrificed on the cross for my sins, then continue following the path. As long as you're aware of where it leads you, that's wonderful. But if you think that you're just worshiping this entity known as Jesus because he's a great guy, what you're not understanding is that the more you worship that entity, the more you're aware of what this entity represents, you're actually starting to download its properties into yourself. Now, that can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. The more you want to be like Jesus, which oftentimes happens, you try to emanate the principles of Jesus, the more you're integrating that archetypal energy or that entity into yourself. And what you don't know is that you're making yourself a sacrifice for my sins. Okay, so once again, if you're willing to be a sacrifice for my sins, and you're willing to die on the cross, and you're willing to have all your friends, all your loved ones literally turn on you last minute, just like Jesus and all his disciples lied on his name, if you're willing as a human being not to embrace those destructive aspects of your being, therefore missing out on some of the most satisfactory areas of life, you can't create power without a positive and a negative. Jesus did not fully embrace the negative. Okay, he wasn't able to essentially rule in his multiverse. That's why he got sacrificed on the cross. And I know there's a whole story behind it. We could literally call it a mythology as to, he was doing the right thing and he was listening to God and, all these other things. But what you're not getting is you're not understanding how this archetypal energy functions in the real world today and how it reflects on you as a human being and how it changes your own energetic structure. So you think Jesus is this great guy and you listen to the whole story and the mythology behind Jesus Christ and what he represents and what he did and how he was such a loving person and how you want to be like that. But what you're not understanding is that the more you're embedded within that belief of wanting to be like Jesus, wanting to emanate the principles of Jesus, wanting to believe in Jesus, right? As your savior, you are literally downloading the archetype of that entity, of Jesus, into yourself, and you are energetically becoming a Jesus. And your energetic path, your energetic outcome will literally be the same energetic outcome as what Jesus received in his story. You will lose everything good. You will lose everything. You will freely sacrifice yourself energetically and even possibly physically. Okay? And once again, if this is something you're aware of and you still want to do, by all means, I would appreciate you sacrificing yourself for my sins. For the destructive qualities that I have in my life that I use on a daily basis to create proper evolutionary power. If you want to stay ignorant and you want to sacrifice yourself for that, by all means, go ahead and do so. But if you are worshiping Jesus and you really believe Jesus, I'm not, obviously Jesus exists. It's a real entity. It's a real archetype. It's very strong. I mean, it's the main religion of our today's time. Okay, it's very strong. It's very real. Trust me. I used to be a Christian. I've seen the manifestations. okay? But once again, if you don't know that it's going to lead to you losing everything good in life, and it's going to lead to you becoming a sacrifice and you being an energetic prey amongst predators. Remember, Jesus was the good shepherd, the sheep, okay? What is a wolf to a sheep? Food, okay? So the point that I'm trying to create here is that for the people that control the world, okay, and I'm one of them, in my own rights. I control the multiverse. I really do. And I don't need you to agree with me. I don't need you to believe me. I do it, okay? I have the knowledge on how to manipulate the real world that we live in, and also how to manipulate my own energetic structure, okay, which gives me the ability to change how reality functions itself. Okay, I have the knowledge. I'm not a part of these secret societies. I'm not a part of these royal families that are trying to keep you away from the knowledge, but I am someone who's aware of the knowledge and aware that it is a process of intense initiation, and most people will not successfully go through the entire process to at least get to where I got in regards to the journey. So I don't take it lightly whatsoever. I don't take the path of initiation light by any means. I mean, I know what I had to go through to get to where I'm at now. And I mean, I could see how easily people fail this process. I can easily see it. I mean, it's intense, okay? And the point that I'm trying to create is that, once again, there is another side, okay? There's a whole other side to what is really happening in the real world today, but more so from an occult level, from a psychic level. And the real professional and the real successful psychics, we know this, okay? And, once again, we know there's a path of initiation, and there's a pathway that you have to take, okay? And once again, what I'm saying now, though, in regards to the, title of this video, is that there are people who are aware of what I'm talking about. Trust me, okay? That have created artificial energies for you to identify with and to believe in, that are not in touch with your true primal evolutionary self-development, okay? And it's that simple. It is that simple. So once again, in correspondence with the title of this YouTube video, I personally believe, okay, this is a personal belief by me. I haven't not seen this documented or written down anywhere solid. I personally believe this based on my observation and my experience, and I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with it, for people that understand some of the things that I'm talking about, that Jesus was a created artificial archetype that was actually based off the primal energy of what Lucifer represents, okay? And for anyone that wants to further understand it, then do some research on what Lucifer represents. I would highly recommend looking into the videos that are on my YouTube channel that discuss Lucifer, because Lucifer is one of the main initiators in regards to deep occult. Exactly that, initiations. Okay, and as I'm saying, all professional, all successful occultists understand this. Okay, it's a fact. Okay, so once again, do some research on my channel of the videos that I have discussing the importance of Lucifer and even what Lucifer represents. Okay, and then compare that with Jesus. And then you can kind of see through the veil, so to speak, okay, of what I'm discussing here. So other than that, ladies and gentlemen, this video has been long enough. I'm going to leave it there. If you enjoyed this and if you felt like it offered you value, then definitely make sure you come down here and you hit the thumbs up button.